Have you ever delivered something to an address that didn't feel real? That's how my last night on the job began. Just another shift, another list of orders, another few bucks to get me through the week. The city was half asleep, streets glowing under that cold orange light that makes everything look wrong, like a dream trying to pretend it's real. I'd been a delivery driver for almost 2 years, and I thought I'd seen it all: drunk customers, late-night creeps, sketchy neighborhoods. But that night was different. It started with a single notification that popped up on my phone, one that felt colder than the air outside. New order received. I didn't know it yet, but it wasn't food I was delivering. It was myself. The order came from a place I'd never seen before. A street name that didn't ring any bells, even though I knew this city like the back of my hand. I typed it twice into the GPS, and both times the system hesitated, as if it had to think, as if the coordinates didn't want to be found. My chest tightened, but I told myself it was nothing, just a glitch, another long night, another weird coincidence. I turned the key, the car engine growled, and I started driving. The roads grew emptier with every mile, the houses turning into silhouettes swallowed by mist. My radio lost signal halfway there, leaving only static, soft at first, then rising in bursts like whispers trying to form words. I remember thinking how quiet it was, too quiet for a Thursday night. Even the air felt different, thick, heavy, charged. I kept glancing at my phone, watching the blue line crawl across the screen as if it were dragging me somewhere it didn't want me to go. My gut told me to cancel the delivery, to turn back and pretend the order never existed. But there's something about being a delivery driver. You start depending on the rhythm, on the routine. You tell yourself one more drop, one more tip, one more good rating. So I kept going. When I reached the neighborhood, the streetlights ended abruptly. My headlights cut through the darkness, revealing houses that looked abandoned, their windows like open mouths swallowing the light. I slowed down when the GPS said, "You've arrived at your destination." Only there was nothing there, just an old house at the end of the block, paint peeling, porch sagging, no number on the mailbox. My hands were sweating on the steering wheel. The food bag on the passenger seat suddenly felt heavier, like it knew something I didn't. I called the number listed on the order. It rang once, twice, then stopped. No voice, just a sound, faint and rhythmic, like someone breathing through the phone. I told myself I was being paranoid. Maybe the customer just forgot to update their address. Maybe the signal was bad. Anything to make sense of it. But when I looked up again, I saw something that froze me completely. The porch light flickered on, not all at once, not like a switch, more like it was struggling to stay alive. And then, through that weak glow, I saw the front door creak open just a few inches. No one stepped out, no voice called me in, just silence. A silence so deep it made my ears ring. Every instinct screamed to drive away. But my phone buzzed again, pulling my eyes to the screen. The delivery app had refreshed, showing a message I swear hadn't been there before. "Please bring it inside." And below it, a name I didn't recognize, but one that felt disturbingly familiar. My own. If you've ever felt that strange pull between curiosity and fear, that moment when your gut screams leave, but something darker whispers stay, then you know exactly what I felt standing there in front of that open door. That kind of fear doesn't just hit your body, it crawls inside your mind, rewiring every thought until all that exists is the question, what's waiting for me inside? And if you've ever had that feeling, that cold realization that something ordinary just became wrong, I want you to tell me. Comment below. Tell me if you've ever felt it, that chill that comes from nowhere, that split second when the world around you stops making sense. Because every story like this one starts with someone ignoring that feeling, someone like me. And hey, if you're already here, breathing through the tension with me, do one thing before we step further into the dark. Hit that like button. It may seem small, but it's what keeps stories like this alive. Every like tells me you're still with me. still brave enough to keep listening when things start getting twisted. The more you interact, the more I can dig deeper into these true nightmares that hide behind ordinary nights, ordinary jobs, ordinary people. And if this is your first time on the channel, subscribe now, because what happened that night wasn't the end. There are other deliveries, other doors that should have stayed closed, other voices that still whisper through the static. When you subscribe, you don't just join a channel, you step into a circle of people who see what others ignore. Those who listen to the silence between the words, who know that sometimes the scariest stories are the ones that start with a simple notification. So, are you ready to find out what was waiting for me on the other side of that door? Keep watching, because the trap hadn't even begun to close yet. The bag of food was still warm in my hands when I stepped out of the car. The night pressed down like a weight, thick and unnatural, the kind of silence that makes you aware of your own heartbeat. My shoes crunched on the gravel driveway, every sound sharp and lonely. The air smelled like wet wood and rust, and somewhere far off, a dog barked once, then stopped, as if even it realized it had drawn attention to itself. The porch light flickered again, weak and trembling, and I couldn't shake the feeling that it wasn't meant to guide me in, but to warn me away. Still, I climbed the steps. I told myself I was just doing my job, another late delivery, another tired customer waiting for their meal. But deep down, something in me knew I was crossing a line I wouldn't come back from. I knocked once. Nothing. Knocked again. Softer this time, because even my own knuckles sounded too loud in that stillness. Then came the sound, slow, dragging footsteps from inside. They didn't match the rhythm of a normal walk. It was more like something heavy being pulled across the floor. I froze. The footsteps stopped on the other side of the door. I waited for it to open, for a face, a voice, a sign of normalcy, but nothing came. Just that breath again, the same faint, distorted breathing I'd heard over the phone. I tried calling out, my voice breaking the silence. "Hello? Delivery for..." But the words stuck, because that's when I saw it. On the door, near the handle, a faint smear of something dark. It could have been dirt. It could have been old paint. But I knew it wasn't. I stepped back, my instinct screaming louder than my curiosity this time. I should have left. I almost did. But the bag in my hand felt heavier now, like it was anchoring me there, and my phone buzzed again, another notification from the app. The message said, "Leave it inside." Inside. The word felt wrong. I stared at the open gap between the door and the frame, that sliver of blackness that seemed to swallow the porch light. I could see part of a hallway, dim, cluttered, the kind of place that hadn't seen daylight in years. A picture frame hung crooked on the wall, the glass cracked, and there was a smell I couldn't name, metallic, damp, old. I should have dropped the bag and left, but my brain, my logic, my training as a delivery driver, it all pushed me to finish the job. Just one step in, just place it down and go. The floor creaked under my foot the moment I crossed the threshold. The sound echoed too long, like the walls were repeating it back to me. "Hello?" I tried again, my voice quieter now, careful, almost respectful, as if I'd stepped into someone's memory instead of a house. The only answer came from deeper inside, a faint shuffle, followed by the creak of another door opening somewhere down the hall. I swallowed hard, my throat dry. My flashlight was still in the car, and my phone battery was at 10%. I used the screen's glow to light the way, each step revealing more of that decaying corridor, peeling wallpaper, muddy footprints that led in but never back out, and shapes that my brain tried not to recognize. Then my phone buzzed again, this time not from the app, but from a private message, unknown number. "You're late." My heart stopped. I looked around, the air thick enough to feel on my skin. My phone slipped a little in my hand as another message appeared. "I've been waiting." My mouth went dry. The contact photo was black, but for a moment I thought I saw my reflection inside it, distorted, stretched, wrong. I turned toward the sound of movement at the end of the hall, the dim outline of something stepping forward. Not fast, not aggressive, just steady, like it knew I wasn't going anywhere. I told myself I could leave, but my body didn't move. The voice that came next wasn't from my phone or my mind. It came from the dark ahead. It said my name, not loudly, not as a shout, but softly, almost kindly, like someone greeting an old friend. I should have screamed. I should have run. But instead I whispered, "Who are you?" And the voice answered, "You brought it." My flashlight flickered once, and in that brief flash, I saw what it meant, a reflection of my own face, standing in the doorway at the end of the hall, holding the same delivery bag I was holding now. And then the light died. So tell me something. If you were me, would you have gone inside? Comment below with just one word: enter. Let's see how many of you would have crossed that door when everything inside you said to stop. Darkness swallowed everything. Not the kind you get when lights go out, but the kind that feels alive, thick, almost breathing. My phone screen went black even though I hadn't touched it. The silence that followed wasn't empty. It was full, buzzing, like the air itself was vibrating against my skin. For a second I thought maybe I'd passed out, that this was just a dream. But the smell brought me back. That same metallic stench, sharper now, like rust and something else, something that made the back of my throat tighten. I blinked a few times, trying to adjust, trying to see, and then a low hum began somewhere deep in the house, rising and falling like the walls were whispering. That's when I realized I wasn't alone anymore. A faint glow appeared at the end of the hallway, flickering, yellowish, like candlelight. It pulsed, dimmed, then brightened again, revealing the outlines of old furniture draped in sheets. I started moving toward it, slowly, carefully, one hand brushing the wall, just to make sure it was still there. Every step I took felt like walking deeper into something that didn't want me. My mind tried to rationalize. Maybe the power was out. Maybe the customer had candles, maybe this was all a misunderstanding, but my gut told me none of this made sense. Delivery drivers see weird stuff, sure, but this wasn't weird. This was wrong. The flickering light led me into what looked like a living room. The air was colder there, heavy enough to make my breath visible. The candle sat on a small table in the center of the room, next to an old rotary phone, the kind that shouldn't even work anymore. I stood there for a second, staring at it, trying to decide whether to call out again. Before I could move, the phone rang. The sound cut through the air like a blade, loud, jarring, out of place. I jumped, almost dropped the bag, and my first thought was ridiculous. Maybe that's the customer calling me. I picked it up, pressing it to my ear. At first, nothing. Just that same static I'd heard in the car. Then a voice, faint and distorted. "You shouldn't be here." My body froze. "Who is this?" I whispered, but the line cracked, the words dissolving into something that almost sounded like laughter before the call ended abruptly. The silence afterward felt worse than the voice itself, like it had left something behind in the air, something that was still listening. I lowered the receiver slowly, and that's when I noticed the photographs. They covered the far wall, hundreds of them, overlapping, curling at the edges. I took a step closer, my pulse racing. They were all of people. Strangers at first, faces I didn't know, some smiling, some terrified, some blurred mid-motion. But as I looked closer, I saw one that made my chest tighten. A delivery driver. Same uniform as mine, same bag. Then another, and another. Different people, different nights, but all holding that same red delivery bag. I felt my stomach drop when I found the last photo, my own, taken from behind, standing next to my car. I stumbled back, knocking into a chair, the candlelight flickering violently as the shadows stretched around me. My phone buzzed in my pocket, and I didn't even want to look. When I finally did, the screen showed a single notification. Order completed. The timestamp was 5 minutes ago. My hand shook as I tried to unlock it, but before I could, the sound of footsteps echoed from behind the wall, slow, deliberate, like someone pacing in the next room. Then came the whisper again, softer this time, closer. "You brought it," it said, and the phone slipped from my hand. The candle flickered once more, and for a heartbeat I saw movement in the reflection on the window, something tall, shifting, standing exactly where I had been seconds ago. But when I turned, there was nothing there. Only the open door leading to the next room and a faint trail of wet footprints that didn't belong to me. If you're still watching this far, I want you to prove you'd have the nerve to keep going. Comment the word "alive" below, because that's exactly what this house felt like when the next door opened. The door ahead was barely open, but enough for that heavy darkness to spill out like smoke. Every instinct told me not to touch it, yet my hand moved on its own. The wood felt damp under my fingers, soft and pulsing, like it was breathing with me. The second I pushed, the sound it made wasn't a creak. It was a groan, deep and organic, like the house itself resented me for disturbing it. The faint candlelight behind me flickered, stretching my shadow across the floor, and for a moment I saw something strange in it. My shape bending unnaturally, like my reflection was trying to move a second too late. That's when I realized whatever was in this house wasn't just watching me, it was learning me. The room beyond was colder, the air heavy and wet. The faint buzz of insects echoed somewhere in the walls, but no sound came from the outside world anymore. It felt like I had stepped out of time itself. I could barely see, but my eyes started to adjust to the faint glow coming from a cracked television in the corner. Static filled the screen, the white noise soft but constant. My first thought was relief. A piece of technology, something normal, something that made sense. But then I noticed what the static was shaping into. It wasn't random, it was forming faces. Blurred outlines of people screaming, their mouths wide, their eyes moving as if they could see me through the static. I moved closer, heart pounding, whispering to myself that it wasn't real, that my brain was just filling in the noise. But as I reached out, the static stopped, freezing on one image, my own face. I stared at it paralyzed as the version of me on the screen blinked. Once, twice, before smiling. Not my smile, though. Too wide. Too deliberate. The TV flickered again, and the sound changed to a low, rhythmic thump. At first I thought it was feedback, but then I realized it was coming from behind the wall, something moving, slow, heavy, dragging. The smell hit me again, that metallic tang, stronger now, mixed with something rotten. My throat burned as I turned toward the noise, every nerve in my body screaming to run. But then, through the gaps in the wall, I saw a shape. Long fingers pressing against the wood, sliding across it from the other side. The boards started to bulge and groan, as if something was trying to push through. I stumbled backward, the floorboards creaking, and that's when I felt it. The vibration of footsteps on the ceiling, soft, uneven, but definitely human, or pretending to be. Dust fell from above. Tiny flakes drifting through the light of the TV, catching in my hair and sticking to my skin like ash. I couldn't breathe. I turned to leave, but the door I came through was gone. No frame, no handle, just a wall. The candlelight from the previous room was replaced by the blue flicker of the TV, casting everything in that sick, cold glow. My phone buzzed again in my pocket, the vibration cutting through the silence. I pulled it out, desperate, shaking. The screen was cracked, but there was a message from my own number. Deliver it. The sound of my heartbeat drowned out everything else. Deliver what? I hadn't brought anything but the food. The bag was still in my hand, but it felt wrong now, heavier, warmer. With trembling fingers I unzipped the top. The smell hit me like a punch, iron and decay. Inside wasn't food. It was something wrapped in cloth, soaked, dark. My breath caught as I reached in and felt the shape beneath the fabric, small but solid, and then it moved. Just once. A twitch, subtle, almost imperceptible, but enough to make me drop the bag and stumble backward into the TV stand. The screen burst into static again, this time screaming at full volume, the faces twisting into a blur of agony and laughter. Through the noise, the same voice echoed, faint but unmistakable. "You brought it home." I don't remember falling, but I must have, because when I opened my eyes, the world had changed. The TV was gone. The room was gone. I was lying on the floor, the bag beside me, the door ahead now wide open, light spilling through it. But the light wasn't warm. It was pale and cold, the kind that doesn't come from the sun. I could see a hallway stretching endlessly, doors on either side, all slightly open. And at the very end, someone was standing there, waiting. If you've made it this far into the story, type "delivered" in the comments, so I know you're still here, and that it hasn't found you yet. I stood up slowly, my legs trembling like they no longer belonged to me. The air had shifted again, colder, denser, as if the house had sealed itself shut, trapping everything inside. The figure at the end of the hallway didn't move, but I could feel it staring. Not with eyes exactly, but with presence, like a thought pressed into my skull. I tried to speak, to ask who they were, but my throat refused. Instead, my body started walking forward, one reluctant step after another, as if something had reached inside and taken control of the strings. The sound of my own footsteps echoed off the walls, each one slower, heavier, perfectly in rhythm with something walking beneath me, somewhere in the dark under the floor. Every door I passed seemed to breathe. Some cracked open wider, releasing whispers that weren't words, but still made sense somewhere deep in the back of my mind. I caught flashes through the gaps, faces watching from the shadows, too quick to fully see. A man with no mouth, a woman whispering through stitched lips, a child's laugh echoing from nowhere. My heartbeat became the soundtrack of the house, fast and erratic, as the end of the hallway drew closer and closer. The figure there finally moved, but not toward me. It tilted its head, slow and unnatural, the motion stretching too long, like reality itself was bending to accommodate it. When I was close enough to see its outline clearly, I realized something horrifying. The figure wasn't facing me, it was facing the wall, completely still, its head twitching slightly like it was listening to something I couldn't hear. I whispered, "Hey." Not sure why. Maybe because silence had started to feel worse than noise. It turned, and for the first time, I saw its face, my face. My knees nearly gave out. It looked like me, but wrong. Pale, eyes hollow, skin twitching in pulses like something beneath was trying to surface. And when it spoke, it used my voice. "You shouldn't have come here." I stumbled back, heart slamming against my ribs, but the hallway behind me had vanished again. No door, no exit, just the house swallowing itself into darkness. "What is this?" I demanded, my voice cracking. The thing smiled, slow and deliberate. "You opened the door," it said. "Now it opens you." Its body began to distort, limbs stretching, bones snapping under invisible pressure, its face melting into a blur that still somehow held my features. The lights flickered and the floor beneath me started to tremble, boards curling like waves. I ran. I don't even remember choosing to. I just moved. My shoes slammed against the floor, the hallway elongating with every step. Like no matter how far I ran, I stayed in the same place. The walls began to close in, the portraits of strangers, the ones from the earlier room, now plastered along the sides, their eyes following me, their mouths opening as I passed. Each one whispered the same word: "Delivered." My vision blurred, my breath came in sharp bursts, and just when I thought I couldn't take another step, a flash of light appeared ahead. A door, slightly open, glowing faintly red. I lunged toward it, my body desperate for escape, and the moment I touched the handle I felt heat, not just warmth, but burning, like the metal was alive. I yanked my hand back, skin blistering instantly, but the door opened anyway. Inside, the glow wasn't from light, it was from fire. Dozens of candles surrounded a single object placed in the center of the floor. The same red delivery bag. It was open now, the cloth inside spread out neatly, the thing beneath it twitched again. I didn't want to look, but I had to. I leaned in slowly, and when I finally saw it, my breath caught in my throat. It was a heart, a human heart, still beating, and then, from behind me, my own voice spoke again, the one that wasn't mine. "You brought it back." I turned, and standing there was another version of me, identical but darker, his eyes reflecting candlelight like glass. He smiled faintly and whispered, "Now we're even." Before I could react, the lights went out. Total silence. Only the sound of the heart still beating somewhere in the dark. If you're still with me, still breathing through this, comment "heartbeat" below, just so I know you're still on this side of the door. When the light returned, it wasn't from the candles. It was pale, blue, flickering like the world had been reset. I was standing outside again, or at least it looked like outside. The night sky above me was colorless, drained, and the street I thought I'd driven down before was wrong. Every house was identical now, lined perfectly along both sides, windows dark, doors slightly open. My car was there too, but even from a distance I could tell it wasn't right. The windshield was shattered, the tires deflated, and the inside, I couldn't see the details, but I swear something was moving in the driver's seat. My name was still echoing faintly in the distance, whispered by voices that didn't belong to a single mouth. I wanted to run, to scream, but my body felt disconnected, like I was watching through someone else's eyes. I stumbled toward the car, the ground soft beneath my shoes, like walking on a heartbeat. The air vibrated, not sound, not wind, just vibration. My phone buzzed again and I almost didn't want to look, but I had to. On the cracked screen, a notification blinked. "New order received." My chest tightened. The address listed was the same one I was standing in front of, the same cursed house, only now the timestamp said it was tomorrow night. My hand trembled as I swiped the screen away, but the message kept coming back, repeating itself over and over until the phone slipped from my hand and hit the pavement, the glow from the screen illuminating the small dark stains beneath my shoes. That's when I noticed the sound again, a soft knock, steady, rhythmic. Not coming from the house this time, but from inside my car. 3 knocks, pause, 3 more. My throat closed, my mind racing for logic that didn't exist. I forced myself forward, each step heavier, and when I reached the car door, I saw it. A faint outline of a hand pressed against the inside of the window. The glass was fogged from breath. I couldn't see the face clearly, but as I leaned closer, my own reflection shifted and smiled, not my smile. Its lips moved, forming words I couldn't hear through the glass. Then, slowly, the hand on the window started tracing letters through the fog. "Your turn." My body moved before my brain did. I turned, bolting down the street, but every house I passed looked the same. The numbers on the mailboxes looped, 42, 43, 44, then back to 42 again. My lungs burned, my vision blurred, and still, the air behind me carried that soft knocking sound. Growing faster, closer, I tripped over something. A delivery bag, the same red one. It sat perfectly upright in the middle of the road, clean, waiting. The sight of it froze me completely. I didn't want to touch it. I couldn't touch it. But it started moving on its own, sliding across the asphalt toward me, as if being pulled by invisible hands. The phone on the ground beside it lit up again, not mine anymore, but one identical to it. The screen showed a single line of text, "Order completed," and beneath it, a live location tracking dot. I watched, breathless, as the dot moved toward me, fast, deliberate, closing the distance on the map with every heartbeat. The moment it reached my location, the knocking stopped. Everything went still. I looked up and every door on the street opened at once, slowly, in perfect sync. The same voice echoed from every direction. My voice distorted, layered, overlapping itself 1,000 times. Delivery accepted. I backed away, step by step, until my heel hit something solid. I turned and there it was, the house again. The same porch, the same flickering light, the same door slightly ajar. Inside, the glow of that cursed hallway called to me like a memory I couldn't escape. The air around me pulsed once, hard enough to make my chest ache, and I finally understood what all those messages meant. The order was never food. The delivery was never a place. It was a trade. Every driver who came before had left a piece of themselves here. And tonight, it was my turn. So if you ever see a strange address pop up on your screen, one that doesn't exist on any map, don't accept it. No matter how good the tip looks, because once you do, you're not just delivering something, you're being delivered. If you've made it this far, if you felt your chest tighten and your breath catch like mine did, comment "Delivered forever." It's how I'll know you made it out of this story, alive. If you're still here, if you made it all the way to the end, breathing a little heavier than before, feeling that strange chill running down your spine, then this story found you for a reason. Because the truth is, only the ones who feel something real make it this far. You didn't just watch another horror story. You lived it for a moment. And if that pulse in your chest still hasn't slowed down, then you're exactly the kind of person who belongs here, in our dark circle of those who aren't afraid to face what hides behind the door. So, here's what I want you to do. If you felt it, that tension, that whisper in the dark that made you question what's real, make sure you subscribe right now. Join the channel before you leave this moment behind, because the next delivery is already on its way. And you'll want to be here when it arrives. Hit that like button too. It's what keeps this nightmare breathing and helps more people step into the dark with us. And I want to see who truly made it through. Comment "I survived the delivery" below. That's how I'll know you reached the end, that the house didn't take you with it. Each one of those comments becomes part of the story, part of the warning for whoever watches next. Don't stop now. The next story, the next nightmare, is already waiting for you. It's right there on your screen. Click it, step inside, and remember, once you enter, there's no turning back.